Okay, welcome everyone to the latest edition of a random walk down Mill Street. Today's we're going to talk about Rosh Chodesh VeAdar, which is the month that we are. Tonight is Rosh Chodesh, so Chodesh Tov to everyone, and we are happy during the month of Adar, especially happy during VeAdar because we have Purim coming in 2 weeks. Now, a little administrative announcement. We will have class next week where we will do the other Purim melodies and talk about some of the Megillot, and I'll show you some of the Megillot that we use here at Sheretz Israel. But tonight's going to be a short class, probably 15 to 20 minutes, where we talk about one melody in several different forms. And that melody is the Purim melody that we sing here at Sheretz Israel. Some of you may know it already, some of you may not. It's a really beautiful melody, and I'll sing it for you here, but we're going to listen to other people sing it better than me. But it goes like, I'll sing it to Enkel Okeno, although it could be sung to a lot of different things, including the Kaddish, including Tehillat, including Adonai Melech, but it goes like this. Enkel Okeno, Enkel Adonenu, Enkel Okeno, Enkel Moshingenu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshingenu. And if that's all you get out of the class, you have gotten what I've intended to give over. So there you go. But that's the melody. It's a really beautiful melody, and we use that for the theme of Purim. It's not, Purim is it's not a long holiday. It's it's one day, but we use it. We'll use it tomorrow morning to extend the use of it. And we'll use it tomorrow morning for Rosh Chodesh. I don't know what Sherry's trying to tell me, but we'll get there, I hope. And we'll after Sherry, you can put in the chat, or you can ask me later. So tomorrow, being Rosh Chodesh, we will use it tomorrow in the Hallel or in the Enkel Okenu, just as a little nod that Purim is coming up. So I just want to talk for a second about what is the name of this month. So sometimes you hear people call this month Adar Bet, which is really not Hebrew. It's just it's a abbreviation for Adar Sheni. But in our Sephardic world, or at least in the Portuguese world, we tend to call it VeAdar. And I don't know where this comes from. I imagine I had a discussion with Rabbi Rode earlier today that it comes from, Adar Rishon, VeAdar Sheni. And so just a shorthand of saying VeAdar Sheni. But I really don't know. And in fact, I saw an article earlier that I showed to Rabbi Rode. We were both a little skeptical of it. But it was trying to make the case that the original Babylonian name of this intercalated month was U-Adar or some U-Adarum, or I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but that it had a pronominal Vav in front of it, so that this is actually Babylonian name of the second Adar. If you don't know what I'm talking about, which is definitely possible, and I only realize that now as I'm in the middle of it, we have 12 months in the Hebrew calendar, except when we don't. Sometimes we add a 13th month. It's an unusual schedule. It's like 6 times in 19 years or 7 times in 19 years. I couldn't possibly explain to you al regel achat, or I don't even know it exactly how the calculations are made, but they are made because if we didn't do this, then the holiday of Pesach would float out of the spring. And so we need to correct this every once in a while to make sure that Pesach is coming in the spring. Pesach is a holiday that must happen in the spring. And so we add on a second Adar in order to make sure that occurs. And we do that on a regular cycle that is kind of complicated to explain. Anyway, VeAdar. So if you hear someone say VeAdar, they're talking about Adar Sheni. And I just don't want to show you that it's the usage here in this congregation. On the left, you see here, this is from the minutes of our congregation here, Sheretz Israel in New York, from 1748. And here it tells you that in the 17th of VeAdar, in 5508, 1748, the congregation duly assembled have with mutual accord nominated, elected, and agreed with Mr. Benjamin Pereira to act and exercise the function of Chazan, or reader of this congregation, for which he is to be paid. By the way, they don't put the salaries in the minutes anymore. I don't know if that's good or bad, but here they are in the minutes, for which he is to be paid £50 per annum, besides the benefit arising on the certificates for exporting kasher beef. So I guess he had a little side business where he sold or exported the certificates. I guess he got paid for hashgacha of the beef, with all the prerequisites and under the same restrictions that the late Chazan officiated. The late Chazan was Machado. I like the last line here, where it tells you that third, to augment the shamash asher campagnal salary to £25 per annum and 6 cord of wood. That's my favorite part of this little clip. But I bring it here to show you that they're using the word VeAdar in the minutes as the name of the month for the extra month of Adar Sheni. They're not using Adar Sheni, they're using a VeAdar. This past Shabbat, I went to Rabbi Soloveitchik. Rabbi Soloveitchik announced the new moon. And I told him, I reminded him that it's Thursday, Friday. And I said, we say VeAdar here. He said, I'm going to say Adar Sheni. He said, I never heard of that one before. And I said, well, I told you the same. I said, I remember, I think it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I said the same thing to you, and you said the same thing to me. So we called it Adar Sheni. I don't know what they did in Philadelphia, Rabbi Gabai. I don't know if he said Adar Sheni or he said VeAdar, but you'll tell us afterwards. Okay, let's go back to the music. And I'm glad that Rabbi Gabai is here, because the first recording that I want you to listen to is of Ein Kelokenu, and it's recorded by Leon Chaim Elmaleh. Reverend Elmaleh was the Chazan of Mikveh Israel in Philadelphia from 1898 to 1929, and then remained as Chazan Emeritus until his death in 1972. So when we listen to his voice, you are actually listening to someone who officiated in Mikveh Israel in the 19th century, which is pretty, connecting the generations. I think it's pretty special. Before he came, he was born in Gibraltar, I believe, and he came to New York around 1897 or 1896 or so, and he served for a few years in Sheretz Israel as the Tokeyang, so says Dr. Poole in his book. And then he was hired in Mikveh Israel to be the Chazan there. The recording we're going to listen to comes from the 1960s. So Reverend Elmaleh is already in his late 80s when he's doing this recording. So you can give him a little slack if it's not the most aesthetically pleasing voice. But he was a very elderly man when he was making this recording. But again, this is a voice from the 19th century. And I'm playing it for you. It's the same melody I sang for you before, but he has little embellishments, which I really appreciate. I think if you know the melody, you'll appreciate them quite a bit.
for Purim.
Can you hear this? There you have a voice going all the way back to the 19th century. You don't get more evidence that this was the melody sung in Philadelphia and I guess in New York, going back to the 19th century, unchanged till today. 75 years of service. Yes, thank you, Rabbi Gabai. And thank you, Jack. Okay. Well, I don't want to impugn Rabbi Soloveitchik. I don't think he was trying to trample on our minhagim. I think he was uncomfortable that he wasn't familiar with the term VeAdar, and it is certainly appropriate and accurate to say Adar Sheni. Everyone knows what month that is, so no one will be confused by that announcement. So but yes, my personal feeling, I would like to hear the word VeAdar in use. Okay. So let's take a look. So this melody that we use here in New York and in Philadelphia, it's not sung in London and it's not sung in Amsterdam, but it is not unique to Sheretz Israel. In fact, this is Livornese, so Livornese melody. It's also known in Gibraltar, and so we're going to listen to some of the original where it comes from. The melody comes from some poems that are sung on Purim. One in Hebrew is called Ach Ze Hayom Kiviti, and then there's also one in Judeo-Italian. Let's see what this says. Okay, yes. So here we're going to listen to the melody as sung by Elio Toaf, who was the chief rabbi of Rome from 1951 to 2002. He also had a very long life. He lived 100 years old. Reverend El-Maleh lived 99. Rabbi Toaf lived 100 from 1915 to 2015. We're going to listen to a recording of him that was made in the 1950s at Hebrew University at the Jewish National and University Library. You can listen to it today. Also part of a commercial CD that's sold about Italian music that's put out by Hebrew University as well. But he was born in Livorno, so he's singing a Livornese melody. This is not from Rome, this is from Livorno. And that is probably its direction how it got to New York as well.
Fate onore al bel Purim, che lo merita in effetto, dica voi altri Purim, che cercate ogni diletto, non abbiate alcun sospetto, d'esser tenuti scicorim, fate onore al bel Purim, fate onore al bel Purim. Fate onore al bel Purim, su belle Bacurot, fate torte Sinaini, voi zittelle zeche not, cuboletti e moscardini, questi son bei bocconcini, per noi altri nearim, fate onore al bel Purim.
So there you have the original Hebrew piyut as well as the Judeo-Italian one, as sung in Livorno, and most likely the melody came to New York as we don't sing those piyutim, we don't sing those poems, but we do have that melody, and it's probably a nod to the melodies that were sung in Livorno. We have other melodies from Livorno here in Sheretz Israel, and other, there is the it's called Hallel d'Italia. We use that a lot in Spanish Portuguese melodies. So the connection between Livorno and Sheretz Israel and other Spanish Portuguese communities was quite strong. Correct. It's not exactly the same, which is why I'm playing it for you. Okay, let's do one more thing. Want to make sure that you're going to hear this properly. I think it was okay, but in fact, I don't know. Try this again. Okay. I think I didn't give you the right optimized melody, but hopefully you heard it well enough. And now we're going to come to Rabbi Ira Rode, our chazan here in New York City, who started in 1990 and has been going strong ever since. I know that very well because that's the year of my bar mitzvah. Okay, so let's just see here. So Rabbi Rode decided to take this melody and put them all together. Put together the Ach Zeh Hayom Kiviti. He put together a Spanish limerick kind of that has the same melody that's sung in Gibraltar. It's called Haman Mamzer El Malo. And he put together Har En Kelokenu, and he weaves them all together. So you can hear the melody line as it's sung in these three different places and three different texts. And he puts what's really nice is he puts some period instrumentation as well, so that you can get a sense of how it would be done with instruments, perhaps on Purim. Let's see here. Okay. I'm just trying to bring out the screen a little bit. There we go. Okay. And now we'll listen to Rabbi Rode.
Sur Elai Mitzar Becherev Hayona Besimcha Uvirnana Becherev Hayona Besimcha Uvirnana Haman Unei Habayit Kulam Aketz Nitnu Hodi Alai Kazayit Achsarim Nimhalu Zameru Damberu Chaste Elo Yichlu Matzeva Zikna Besimcha Uvirnana Matzeva Zikna Besimcha Uvirnana Chizku Va'el Livtoach Ki Based Hechal Kamim Giborecho Machar Cherev Tochal Nakuma Naruma Malkeinu Ko Yuchal Chishtarus Amana Besimcha Uvirnana Chishtarus Amana Besimcha Uvirnana El Kerohenu El Kadonenu El Kemokeinu El Kemoshienu Mi Kerohenu Mi Kadonenu Mi Kemokeinu Mi Kemoshienu Nodel Elohenu Nodel Adonenu Nodel Emokeinu Nodel Moshienu Baruch Eloheinu Baruch Adonenu Baruch Malkeinu Baruch Moshienu Atahu Eloheinu Atahu Adonenu Atahu Malkeinu Atahu Moshienu Atato Shigenu Atatakum Terachem Sion Ki Etchenena Ki Vahamogen Haman Mamzer El Malo Trato de aniquilar a Israel el bueno el 14 de Adar. Comamos, bebamos y también nos emborrachemos y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Ahashverosh potente se metió en una fuente y vino la serpiente y se comió su gente. Comamos, bebamos y también nos emborrachemos y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Ordenaron desayunos que debemos hacer, grandes, chicos y vallados, todo el pueblo de Israel. Comamos, bebamos y también nos emborrachemos y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel.
And that, everyone, is my, that's all I have for you tonight. A little short one, a little reprieve for you. Next week, we're going to do the other important melody for Purim, which is the Micha Mocha melody for next Shabbat, as well as we're going to look at examples of the Megillot that we use here at Sheretz Israel. It's quite interesting. They are there's a certain uniformity of them, and I'd like to show that to you. And we're also going to look at the minhag of Machatzit HaShekel, as done here at Sheretz Israel, and some olive wood boxes that we've been using since I don't know how long here at the synagogue. So that's it. I'm going to stop the recording, and I look forward to talking to you. I'm going to ask all of you to unmute, and I'm going to stop the recording.